You're not really saying that music can kill, are you?
Yes, I am.
Music can be a very powerful thing. Nothing galvanizes the emotions as quickly.
Hello, kiddies. We're going to have a good time together because you got to talk with James Hood. And I want to keep it brief because it is a long conversation, and in editing it, I found there wasn't a lot to cut, that it was interesting and flowed in a cool way that I enjoyed listening to. But James, what, multi-instrumentalist?
Yes, and
Right?
just amazing conversationalist, fascinating character, like just incredible background, just incredible take on what music can do in the world and the impact it has on people and the collective experiences. I don't want to steal it. Just go on the ride. Go on the ride and enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
a career prior to what he's doing now.
Played with the Pretenders, amongst others.
Many years.
Yeah.
But what he's doing now is really, I don't know, it's otherworldly, out of this world.
Yeah, it's hard to describe the music, but listening to it, it's like, okay, I see where this is going. I dig this.
It takes you on a journey.
Yeah. So, I can't remember if I mentioned this to you, but I wanted to show you what arrived the other day.
What you're showing
for the wall of fame behind me here.
That's amazing.
So
you got it, but you didn't.
It is Link Ray's early recordings from the record collection of Steve Albini, and it comes with a little certificate saying this is where it was procured from.
Amazing.
But yeah, you'll go up there with Sparks and with the McDonald brothers.
You're gonna have to take down eventually.
Well, I'm thinking maybe the drum head moves over. I don't know yet. There's
the drum head over.
Well, it will be there. It will stay there. I just have to.
You do realize that what's most important in your office is what I can see, right?
Yeah, no, right. But that's why I'm thinking, like, if Link goes to my left, your right of the males, you'll just get his legs and maybe a little bit of the leather coat. Or if I move that over, and then I'll have to get another record to have kind of three, and then the drum head. You see where we're going.
I do.
So there's that.
First and foremost, I truly have been completely transported and just truly, I mean, from the second I pulled it up and I started listening and like just on my phone when I first received the tracks and we got to the website and everything, and was like, okay, we'll see what this is. It's amazing. And then watching just some of the little, just tiny bits of footage.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, it's an unusual record for me to release because it's in some ways it's not really only really in about 40 minutes in does it actually get into sort of repetitive music, which actually sort of other than that, and it's exploring something that I'm really interested in, which I describe as elastication. So if you think of our minds, I think that basically for all the time that I've been making music, I've been essentially doing it to self-soothe, and that the music that I have now honed, and the only music I can make, I have a sound, is something that speaks to the quietest part of us.
Right.
And but I'm also very interested in how powerful our minds are. So if I say blue elephant, Arizona mountains, skiing, Australia, underwater, your mind can effortlessly form a picture of all those things. And what I'm trying to do with with this project is use sound in a way of being like a catalytic instigator of reactions or memories or just noticing. And so it's essentially more, it's I think it's great fun, but it's psychologically it's like an anthill.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're there, and that you're hearing a sound, and even if you can have so many reactions to a sound, it reminds you of something, you don't like it, or it makes you think of something else, or you know what I mean. It's like, and so in a lot of ways, what I did was make a sound collage of a sort of a moving. It's a bit like a sort of one of those sushi restaurants where the things are going around all the time, and things are coming into your awareness, and after a few minutes you realize that this is what's happening, is that things are coming, presenting themselves, and then but there seems to be some meaning to it that and there's meaning to it for me, but the point is that, and this is where it leads to the other music I make, the shows I make, is that I want you to make the meaning. It's like, I want, in the shows, it's like anything can set you off. And to me, this is such an interesting, in the shows, I'm trying to give you big feelings. I'm trying to give you feelings of possibility, of feeling really great to be a human. Just like, I'm a human. It's like, that means I'm I'm pre-enrolled for immortality. I'm part of nature. I'm part of this incredible miracle that's all around me. And I'm encouraging people to notice what's going on while they grind through what life is supposed to be like, And so I'm still searching for the right word, because otherworldly is not quite the thing, because I want it to be worldly. We're in this world, but I want to give a resource for something that I certainly need, which is where I can be extremely calm, or I can have a soundtrack that is a companion of my calm. Yes. And that's why and then there's so many interesting things about this, because when I was mixing it, I used to go take the dog for a walk, and I used to have it on earbuds like I'm wearing now. I really like these guys because they give very, very strong stereo picture. So again, so it widens the mind. So you can have things that really feel like they're happening a long time, almost out of your speakers. And I'm walking down the street, and there are sounds, there's all sorts of sounds on here that are not musical, from bees buzzing to dogs barking to conversations, laughter. But then when you're walking down a street, as long as it's not too noisy, you start to not be able to tell what is in the sound and what is actually in real life. And I think that's something really interesting. So it can be a soundtrack for some kind of, like I like to think of people wearing it commuting, because I think that I've listened to this, whatever it is, a lot, like to make it. It's exactly an hour long, and it comes in 3 sections, and it means a lot to me. But at the same time, it's not important what it means. What it means to me, I've put in the music. But what I'm more interested in is what it means to other people, and how people use it, because people use music in all sorts of different ways. So it's a little bit of an experiment, but it's also an abstract overture of the record I'm about to release, and the show I'm about to release in October, Astronomica. So that is so this is a sort of companion. It is essential, as in overture. You know, you'll hear a lot if you get to know this music, that whatever this is. If you get to know this piece, this sonic collage, then when and if you go and see the show, you're going to know all the music because it will have gone under your skin. Because I'm using it in all sorts of. It's been very interesting way around because I made Astronomica first. Astronomica is my is my foray into psychedelic orchestral music, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a friend who you may have heard that, you know, obviously when the Western orchestras are very expensive, LA, London,
yeah.
Paris, you know, they're amazing. But the Eastern European orchestras are just as good, but much, much cheaper.
Of course.
And I made a friend who has a close relationship with the Hungarian National Orchestra, and they do loads of sessions, remote sessions for him and everything like that. And that really got me excited because I wanted, I don't know if you know, but I've made 2 planetarium shows. One's called Mesmerica, and is a very, it's like it's very undynamic. It's sort of it places you in hopefully in a it's like a naughty shortcut to what I'm told meditation feels like, because I'm not a meditator, you know. It's like, but I think I have felt sometimes when I'm watching a sunset or seeing puppies play or something like that, I feel like the same sort of feeling, you know.
That's
and
how
I think that
there.
this is what I'm trying to do in my life, is I'm trying to give people easy access through sound and also visuals, obviously with the shows, but primarily I'm, you know, I don't make the visuals of my shows. I'm a musician, and they're music experiences, and they're supposed to try and get you to feel big feelings. And what those feelings are is none of my business. But I do think that there's a way to use music and to use sort of things that are certain things, that way you can present music in a way that incurs emotions, whether it's a build or a drop or a crescendo or harmonies or, you know, whatever it is. It's like I've learned all of that myself. I'm not a natural musician. I'm originally a drummer back in the day, but I realized that everything I've tried to learn in the studio is to try and get this effect, to give people a chance to experience a different side of themselves to the one that they get every day, not the part of them that gets to work on time or gets to the airport on time. It's like we are transcendent beings, and I'm not a religious person. I'm not even I think spiritual is like, oh, you're an eyeist because you've got eyes. It's like, of course we're spiritual. We are, that's all we are. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it seems to me like kind of tired old. So I find all those terms, although I believe in them in some way, I find them all very tired and out of date.
Right.
What I don't think is out of date is wonder and awe at the experience of having eyes, and then having a consciousness that goes with what your eyes witness, and your opportunity to make that up for yourself. And that seems to me to be what life's about. And I don't know what, you know, any more than anybody else. And that's another important thing that I think is so fun about this, is I'm not a spiritual I'm not a teacher. I've spent a lot of time trying to reside in my life on the fringe, where it's quiet, where the best ideas are, where people aren't tired, where people aren't cynical, where you can actually just rest in. Oh, of course, life's hard. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, they say if if everything's going great now, just wait a few months because everything's changing all the time. And that's one of the bargains we've made, is we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow. There could be, the skies could fall on our heads. But so that's the thing, is that I feel a huge sense of kinship with my fellow humans, that we're all in this together. And I sometimes wonder what we'd do if we all knew we only had a little time left. Like, say that a meteor was going to hit in 3.5 years. It's quite a long time to get your head together. this is what I'm not a mawkish person. I love nothing better than sense of humor, but I do think that there's no point. I don't know. Not this is what I think we're here to do, is to be good company for ourselves. Very few people manage that. If you think about all the scrolling and all the dopamine and all of that stuff that's happening. So we're looking at really insanity that my brother, and I'm part of it. Look, I've got a phone here, it's like, it's not like I'm totally part of it, but there is something that needs addressing. And it's not like we're not to be made wrong. We've done nothing wrong, but humans, we're so enthusiastic for technology that I think that we can let it overwhelm us. And I think that music for a long time, obviously, has been a way of pulling yourself into other more comfortable worlds that you've created. Mm-hmm. And so to be part of people's inner world by the music I make is I'm trying to inculcate an invite into your inner world but in these two different pieces, Quantum Mind Carnival and Astronomica, they're flip sides of the same coin in a way. They're trying to get the same feeling. And if I can get people, I mean, I always say, people say, how long is the show? Or how long is Quantum Mind Carnival? And sometimes I think, well, it's maybe 2 epiphanies, 1 realization, 1 moment of complete empathy with someone that you realized you didn't hate anymore. I mean, it's like we can all make it up. I have so many letters over the first 2 shows for people who've seen stuff that isn't there, who've had experiences that I could not have. So in some ways, it's like planting a field. It's these are all seeds, and everybody. What's so interesting about this is that if you and I could go to you could go to the show with the person you've known longest in your life, your favorite person in the world. I don't know who it would be, if it's a friend or brother or sister, whatever. So you are so in tune, and you could sit next to each other and watch one of my shows, and you won't have the same experience because I'm not directing it, and there's something very interesting about that. There's also one family wrote to me and said, we all had the same, something in your show reminded us all of the same thing at the same time. And I think there's so much here that I don't understand. In a lot of ways, I think what I'm doing is asking rhetorical questions, but I think that I'm good at making a nice, an attractive, it's like a sort of musical sofa or a couch that you want to sit on, and then you sit on it, and then you start to sink into it, and then you realize that there's much more going on, and it's all for you. It's all for you. I'm working, it's like all I'm trying to do is to milk every little drop of potential feelingness or reactivity or whatever that might be out of the music. Sorry, that went on a bit.
No, that's perfect. And that's and you can sense that just from the music side of it, and just from the little bits I've seen of the other shows, which are different, obviously, but just in what you do, and and I love that, like just that whole completely. I can imagine what you're saying. Like I get it, and I want to experience that, because I even just what you said about the meditation piece of it. I'm a terrible meditator. I've tried it a million times. I track with exactly what you're saying. What you said about the way that but I felt those feelings in these certain shared moments with people, or these certain experience where I'm like, where you go, oh, that's what they're doing. That's what that is. Where it's the whole, everything just becomes clear, and you're just in it. And it can be a sound. It can be a moment where the world everything you're swept away. And you can be sitting with someone in a moment where you have a completely different experience, but a shared moment, or an energy in a room of people dancing to a DJ, or whatever it is. That's just so, where you are so great. It's so great to be alive, or so devastating to be alive. Yet it's such a beautiful moment. It's such a beautiful tragedy. that you shared, that you...
I definitely reside in some kind of music which can either be seen as sad or happy. I've had the same piece of music played at a funeral and a wedding.
Of course.
And I think that doesn't confuse me. Some people say, hey, that's so crazy. You've either got to have Shake It Off or you've got to have George Michael, you know, or sort of different corner. And I disagree. And I also think that what's really important about musicians that we've lost a little bit, because of all the projection and pop stars and stuff like that, is like musicians through the history of the human race have had to capture the mood of the village.
Yes.
So if there's a fight and some people are slaughtered, or the fox catches all the chickens, then there's a lament, and her violin playing, or they sit around the fire, has got to capture the lament, and people are crying and singing and howling and healing. And then a wedding, or you know, something great, or a victory, or whatever, you know, and then you know, and then everyone's dancing around. And
sometimes both at the same time, by the way.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
Sometimes people are feeling both ways at once.
But it's such an interesting thing. People sort of say to some big band, you know, do you have to play your early hits? And it's kind of like, I think, God, you know, it's like, well, some people say, oh, well, you know, we don't want to play the hits, you know, we want to play our new album or something like that. And I just think that it's such a privilege to be a musician professionally. But our job is to serve people, is to give them something. Obviously, you know, the Stones doing it in a way where they're showing us how outrageously cool and all the whole rock and roll. But even though I came from that and I came through all of that, what I think is interesting is this the mind part of music, and the same thing happens when you go back and listen to your favorite Led Zeppelin track or something like that. I mean, the amount of chemical reactions that are going on when you're listening to some music you love, it's unbelievably powerful and under talked about, in my opinion. You know, I mean, you have to see it how music just makes a party. But so yeah, I see people as multidimensional, and their minds and their inner worlds are very big, and people have very private inner worlds that they may not even share with their very good friends, because you have to spend a lot of time with yourself to avoid making an inner world, you know. And then really it's a survival thing, because we know that, you know, mental health and you know, sometimes it's really hard to handle being, you know, being alive and being in a body and all of that. So for all of these reasons, sometimes I think just after the pandemic, we released Beautifica, and I was watching the audience who were coming in to see it, and it felt like to me that we were offering a palliative service, like we were nursing. We were seeing you. I think that when you go to a planetarium show, the last, you know, like, you're seen, for the minute you enter this beautiful sort of domed environment, you're seen as being human and miraculous and flawed and complex and extraordinary, and there's something about, but that you're also not going to experience anything from the minute that you go in there that is in your everyday life, other than thoughts that you bring with you. So in the shows, that means well, there's an abstraction to it. It's all a little bit blurred, you know what I mean? It's supposed to be. You're never going to see a car driving down a street. You're never going to see a cat running across a field. We don't, the things we all, the point is, in a way, is to spend a bit of time seeing how the human race is flowering, and that there's an explosion, a quickening of our consciousness and of our acuity and of our awareness, of our sensitivities. Obviously, physically, you only have to see, my son is so much taller than me, and you can see that there's a quickening, it's unfolding, and I think it's unfolding on a well, quantum means everything, but in the mind, which is also quantum, because it's quantum to me means everything that's not caught in time and space. And that's pretty much everything, because actually now the more we're realizing that time and space are an illusion. And if you know, you think of your sister in Australia or your husband, whatever like that, there's, you know, we actually see science as having to constantly catch up with this sort of what the, you know, ancient wisdoms have known for thousands of years. And this is, I just want to support it. I just want to support. I don't think it's, you know, I've got two, well, late teenage children who, and I just do not think that this is an easy world to come into.
No.
I feel that we've lost all respect for the authority. Like we know that it doesn't make any sense. It feels so out of date. So I mean, I'm losing a bit, but I mean, I feel that sanity means you have to go back into you can't spend any more time on MSNBC watching what lunatics are doing to our country. You have to go into your community, and you have to make sure that the lady whose husband's just had a stroke has got something to eat, and you've just got to try and be a decent person. You've got to try and be a good parent and a good child, a good kid, and a good brother and a sister and a friend, and to get through this. To make gentle the life of this world, as John Robert Kennedy said, it's like it's that's all we can hope for, and then we're probably not able to see that this is a tiny part of some much bigger, infinitely complex and beautiful, loving, aware, some kind of quantum structure that we're part of. That. But we don't need to know about that. But I'm the guy who's seeing the glass half full. I was about 3 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. That's when I decided we were making a slightly political show where we were going to slightly tell you to eat your greens and to so put yourself together. And then I suddenly realized this is not what I do. This is not. I have no bit. Everybody knows the world's fucked up. We all have heard someone who's been murdered. We've all heard someone last week who's been mugged for their phone. It's like we do not need reminding. What we need is a resource, places, sort of like ashrams of some kind of heightened energy. We're not ignoring it, but we're certainly not going to concentrate on it. For the hour that you're listening to my music, we are surfing the apotheosis, if that's the right word, of the human condition, of genius, of epiphany, of realization, of quantum. Like I'm so enthusiastic about this because it's something that I'm describing something, but I didn't really think of it. When we put Mesmerica, we put out because we ran out of money and we didn't know what it was. And the people who went to see it loved the fact that there was no directive, there was no people saying you can't release a film, it's got no narrative, there's no story, But in fact, that was our secret weapon, is that there's no story. So it sort of pushes you lovingly into a vast lake of your own ideas, awareness, and at the same time. The first 5 minutes are like watching an 80s pop video, because what we're trying to do is trying to overwhelm the mind. Because it's only 15,000 years ago that we were not the king of our environment. We had all sorts of people who, and whatever you think of Darwin and evolution, and I think you don't need to know what I think about anything, but that on any basis, 15,000 years is not enough time to evolve out of something that's unnecessary. The unconscious mind is a little bit like the appendix. It's still, well, the conscious mind is even as I'm talking to you, is if something happens that I associate with danger, like I hear a sound like a siren, or I hear dogs barking, or I hear screeching tires, or anything, my conscious mind is still primed primarily to keep me alive, not to get me to the office on time. We've sort of cobbled that on top. Now it's get to the office on time without dying. You know what I mean? But so the conscious mind, even when it starts at one of my shows, I've got a little bit of knowledge of this because I used to be a consulting hypnotist. I'm really interested in suggestion. I don't understand it even more than you, but why is it that a huge, great, muscular guy can you can just say, you can just put, he could so suggestible, because anyway, it's a very interesting thing. And that's in a lot of way, what's happening in the show is that I'm giving you all sorts of positive suggestions that are to try and sort of build up for that short amount of time a feeling of empowerment and gratitude that like I have a life and I've got health and or whatever your life circumstance is. And the reason why we bombard is because or the first show, you're just going into an infinite fractal dive, but what it's doing is it's too much for your mind to notice, because your mind is trying to go, okay, my dog's there, okay, yeah, the front door's there, yeah, car's still there, it's like, so and then once there's too much, you just go into some kind of a passive trance where you then just allow it to happen to you, and you go into what I call your big mind. So now your mind isn't trying to notice everything, because you can't. Most of what happens in my shows is not describable. It's like you can't. Well, it's a sort of golden blobby thing with a sort of pointy thing that's coming out into a blackie, but it's all symbolic, and so you can easily think, well, that's used to be my life, and this is now my life, and this is where there's all sorts of opportunities for you to associate. But associations are obviously completely subjective. So it's such an interesting field, and I don't think that many people have. I mean, obviously, ambient music, it has really, whenever it started with Brian Eno and all of that stuff, and the KLF and all of that, and I was kind of a little bit part of that with my Mood Swings project, that we were definitely, I was really into the softer side of our consciousness. It's like, what happens when things are all rounded rather than sharp. But Quantum Mind Carnival, going back to that, it's just it kind of did itself. I know people sort of say that, but what happened was, I finished Astronomica, and I had a sort of massive grief, really. But I was like, I've never enjoyed a project more, because going back to what I mentioned about elastication, you can go from tiny to enormous visually, but you can also do it musically, and your mind's faster than anything. So it's kind of like it's almost like a little bit like someone done a roller coaster and a trampoline. Anyway. So when I finished Astronomica, I thought, well, there's so much. I think part of it was I was sort of tidying things up, and I was putting all the samples and all the little sort of sections in the tidying, as you do at the end of a session, for backing up and stuff like that. And then I found myself just pulling. Just starting to, oh no, this is what happened. Okay, so I thought, okay, but what do I, when my shows happen, you tend to come early, because you've only got 40% good seats. And so from 5 minutes in, they've got 15 minutes to go, and they're seated, they're ready to go. So the pre music's always very important. So I thought, oh, this is where the idea of the overture came in. So I started by thinking, but I don't want it to be a normal overture. I wanted it to be like it's like a sort of fever dream, and at the same time, not much happens for the first 5 minutes. I don't want people to even notice it. And then, so that's why it starts almost like it's got an opaque kind of translucence to it, where it's not even really there. It's just got this kind of tone that kind of sounds like a summer thing. And then you hear a little bit of birds and stuff like that. And then things, you can tell things are starting to happen. Anyway, I did, and I did 20 minutes. And then I had so much that I did 30, and then I did 30. No, that's right. I did 20 minutes. And then the guy said, well, you should probably do it, just in case they're stragglers, you should probably aim to do 25 or 30. And then I got to 30, and I was like, it's an EP. And then if I got to 40, it's like it's an LP. And at the same time, it's a completely different way of thinking of it, because nothing's in time with itself. Nothing's in tune with itself. It doesn't matter. It's amazing how it doesn't matter. And now when I listen to it, I'm like, it's so weird. I can't really, there was an element of play that some of it happened quite fast, where I'm sure that you may have a feeling when you're doing something, you're editing or something, and suddenly you're just, wow, just look at these fingers. They're just like on fire, and everything I was doing was working. And a weird momentum where you don't quite know there's something in the room with you. And whatever it is, it was definitely pulling my way. And so I'd like to think it's quite unusual. I haven't, I know that there's been these kind of found sound sort of skate thingies before, and I love them. There's a but this has got a little bit more intention. It's not so much just it's actually very active mentally. It's not. It's not. So this woman came up to me when I was playing Mesmerica still live in 2019, and she said I must have listened to this song off album I made called Pure Ceremony about 63,000 times. I wrote an entire thesis just with that on repeat, and so I've been encouraged to go with, you know, when things like that happen, that's like the universe saying you're doing the right thing. It's not. I'm not saying it's the world's most important thing. It's not going to stop us from a nuclear winter or something like that. But it's part of us. It's part of a humanistic desire to widen the context of how you can enjoy music, and it's not work, but it's not. It can also be cleansing. I mean, a lot of people think that they listen to ambient music, it clears their mind, you know, and it's like, well, that's huge to me. To me, that's, you mean I can do that? It's like that, you know, I mean, that's, you know, it's a resource. It's just like a sort of another resource that you go to as an aid to modern living. You know, it's like, it's part of, and so I'm wildly excited with it. What happens? So after 40 minutes, it starts to go into pieces that are musical, but are so. I mean, they are just the soundtrack for again, one of these otherworldliness or something like that. I mean, to me, that you can't really tell what any of the instruments are, or where the hell, who made this, where the hell was this made, how do you even make this? And it's based around sort of either a pedal steel solo or a sarangi solo, which is a lovely Indian instrument. And I do love. There is something that, you know, I don't know anything about Indian music, but I do understand that a great master can with improvisation can just hold a tone sort of oscillating in the air in the most sort of delicious sort of I don't know, just sort of weightlessness, and I've spent quite a lot of time listening to that sort of stuff, and so there it's because I felt that it had to ground itself at some point. It couldn't just be like everything was kind of like in some ways suspended, like it never roots itself in a rhythm or a melody. You hear a melody and then you think, okay, that's nice, so I'm going to hear that again. No, everything's completely changed, and yet it felt great. I love that change, because all of these changes for the first 40 minutes is to do with the elastication of what I think happens when your mind is entertained. You see, like what does it say on Quantum Mind Carnival? It's got a little plaque which says its intention. That's its, and what is it? And I wrote it, but I do like it. It says, Quantum Mind Carnival, a sonic garden of hypnotic delights for the efficacious amusement of the mind.
I mean, that's perfect. What else is there?
But the amusement of the mind is like, I think that, and that can be where you can just chuckle, or sometimes there's it's absurd, you know, something happens that's kind of absurd. There's a moment that I find very moving, actually, where this huge orchestral theme that is part of Astronomica devolves into the same note sung by 70,000 people at Liverpool Football Ground, where they're singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and it just happened to be. And I'm not, you know, like you could get, I could have an assistant who could be constantly getting everything to be in tune or in time, but this was just completely. One of the things that was completely in tune is that this soccer club they sing Jerry and the Pacemakers song, walk on, anyway, blah, blah, and they sing it full-throatedly, and they hold on this long note. I don't know what note it is, an F or something like that, but it's exactly the same note that the orchestra. So to me, that is an opportunity to make your own mental picture of that elastication. And so I'm so glad you like it. I mean, I think that it's the other thing is that I've always felt this with instrumental music, is that you can listen to it for much more, you can have much more stamina with it. That, you know, you can't listen to the singer that much. I mean, unless it's, if it's Elton John or something, you know, like it's too much someone else. Whereas what I love is when I'm making these records, I love, I mean, I'm a monk for the music, you know. It's like last 4 years, it's changed a bit this year because my house, yeah, I was in the Altadena fire, so I lost my house in January.
I'm so sorry.
But it's actually, it ended a 4-year seclusion for me, which started in the pandemic. And I was like, you know, we were told, because at that point I had to write a follow-up to Mesmerica, and all I was going to do was be locked down anyway. So they were like, so you're all going to have to stay in your house for the next 6 months. I was like, that's all right by me. And then that went into Astronomica. And then I'd become a bit of a workaholic, but you know, when you do something and it's so fun, it's also your job, but it's so fun that you can't stop, and you can't really, I can't remember the last time I sat in a bar, had a beer, or went to the movies. But this was the year, end of 24 is when I'd finished everything. Quantum Mind Carnival, Astronomica, everything was done. And I was scratching my head thinking, how am I going to do this? I don't know. I have the imagination to not just get involved in another. But it had tired me out. I was pretty burnt out by it.
Yeah, of course.
And then the house burns down, my studio burns down, and I'm running with my hard drives, my computer, my dogs, my cats, passport, credit card, and it's turned into the most extraordinary year. It's only 6 months ago. It could be 6 years for all you know.
Right.
But personally, I don't want to actually talk about my experience of what's happened, because the majority of people this is the bad bits just starting, which is, this is the new reality. It's like after a while, you know, it stops being you know, unusual that you're now used to live in Altadena, but you're now in an area where you don't know anyone. And it was a very folksy, harmonious, lots of kooky, eccentric people, and we've been spat out. Well, I'm still in Pasadena, but we've been spat out all over Southern California, and it's tragic. But yes, but it did definitely get me to stop working. So
that is the silver lining. And what I hope that it's really cold comfort for everyone who's been spat out, because I know a lot of people that have been spat out from there. But I keep hoping that a little bit of that Altadena magic is sort of sprinkling out to all these little communities, that little sort of, because I think Altadena had a lot of magic in it. And so maybe some of that magic I have, that it's kind of sort of it's sprinkling around, and it'll sort of sprout, sort of.
What I love it is, it really belonged to it originally was, Pasadena was whites only. And all the people who worked at the big houses in Pasadena lived up the road, up the hill in Altadena. And the country club that I lived about a mile away from was the first black country club for upscale, wealthy black Californians, you know. And then obviously that was wiped away both sides. You weren't allowed to do that. But what I love, when I've lived there 15 years, was the very elderly African Americans who were so friendly, and they were the ones we were invading, because we've all gone there now. I mean, you know, you see Ferraris and Teslas and stuff. But when I first moved there, when I first started visiting Altadena, was my friend moved there about 10 years before I did, and it was definitely kooky. It had all sorts of folkloric stories about. There's a place called Zorthian's Ranch, which is, have you heard of Zorthian's Ranch? Yeah. Well, you know all about it then. I mean, it's just like, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And I think that, it's weird to go up there. I go up there every day because my dog, you know, it's a great place. You've got dogs now, because you can let the dogs off. They could just run. It's almost gone back to what it was 100 years ago. You know, 80% of the houses are gone, and now the grass is just growing over again. But I hope that they're strict with the redevelopment of it, because it's so close to Hollywood that it's always going to come back. You know, it's like, of course. Yeah. But I still own my lot, you know. I mean, I'm going to hold on to that and hopefully rebuild.
You have to do that.
And yeah. But Well, thank you. You know, it's
No, my
like
gosh, thank you so much. I could talk to you for days and days. This is amazing. So just for our listeners, so the show's opening in,
so Quantum Mind Carnival has just quietly leaked out.
that's right.
I had to fight very, very hard with the powers that be to not to release it before Astronomica, but I thought it was very
Yes.
important. One of the things that's important to me, Heidi, is that I've been a musician for 40 years professionally,
No,
and I now happen to make the music for these very popular shows,
right.
but I'm still in the music.
Of
I mean, I'd love
course.
Quantum Mind Carnival to get some random Grammy nomination. So I feel very strongly that I have to have my own oxygen as an
Yes,
artist.
that's fair.
And
So that,
because Astronomica is actually, it's extremely psychedelic. It's like the Sergeant Pepper of orchestral electronica, but it does have, it's also very, sorry, you're going to say something?
no, I'm
no.
shifting to listen.
But it has, you know, I love a good melody, you know, and so it's very accessible, and that some people are going to call it sort of crassly accessible. So what felt right about rebalancing it by releasing, in a way, Quantum Mind Carnival is a primer for how to listen to Astronomica,
Which makes perfect sense. And
because
Quantum Mind
otherwise you
Carnival
could say,
just came out.
yes, just came out. Astronomica is not coming out till October.
Yes.
And but as well as feeling a strong sense of familiarity, you're also going to notice the glint in its eye that you might not have noticed in Astronomica if you hadn't heard Quantum Mind Carnival first. That
Right.
this is deeply, like, I'm trying to really, you know, and I'm Icarus. I get as close to the sun as I can before my wings burn. I'm trying to hyperbolicize some aspects of music to give people big feelings, and I've done it massively on Astronomica. Like I'm the Cecil B. DeMille of ambient music, and you're talking to the guy who made Ceremony 12 years ago, which was just an astringent one take of me playing a handpan or a hang drum, whatever you want to call it, which all got burnt sadly in the fire, which is interesting because it's interesting because it's actually, that's followed. I've moved from the most astringent, minimalistic, like almost like gamelan, sort of like a sort of Indonesian gamelan. So no harmonic aspects at all, really. No chord changes, no major scales, minor scales, all that. I don't even know what you're talking about. So now suddenly we're working with the Hungarian National Orchestra, where these musicians come out of the womb playing. And I've found my friend Scott Erickson, who was the guy I mentioned, who has, you know, who's conducted. So one of my bucket lists was to hear my music played by an orchestra, but because it's the melodies. I think I write really good melodies, and I think you have to write good melodies because that's the first connection with music, is when you can hook onto some melodic. It doesn't mean it has to be a melody. It could be a harmonic change or some sound that's repetitive that you can hook onto. That okay, now I'm getting stuck in, you know, and so. So the Astronomica, I mean, it does sound like you know, your head's going to blow off if it gets any more juicy and golden and stereo. And there's a quote where I say something like, if you hadn't thought about buying some new speakers because you just think the music's always sound the same, you're a bit bored with all the parameters of listening to music, these two albums might be a good reason to do that, because they really are. I love production, you know, because I think production is how you get to feel stuff. It's like, if you listen to a great producer like Trevor Horn or something like that, it's like, you know, those things that he would do. And I've heard interviews with him where I really agree with him. It's like you start with trying to keep the interest, and then if you've got there, then put things in that cause reactions, cause to be noticed, you know, and then nobody tells you your relationship with that little gag that happens just after the second chord, so that it becomes yours in a very personal way. In the same way that everybody, but you know, the sax solo in Careless Whisper belongs to everybody, you know, except the guy who played it, you know.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So yes, it's psych. You know, it's lots of things, but the most important thing is that I'm not defining it. I think I've done all the cross collateralization to try and make interesting bulbs to plant in a field, but I'm really not in charge of how they would get received. But I'm using, obviously, you never hear anything scary, you never hear anything too dark or doomy, because it's so easy to do. It's like, there's another quote that apparently I said that it won't ever get scary, but it might get deep, because I think that we are deep, the deepest part of us. You only have to look at someone waiting for the bus and they're staring, and you're like, thank God they're not on their phone and they're actually having an experience of themselves. They're probably thinking, why is this bus late? That means I'm not going to get dinner on the table, and then he's got soccer practice tonight. But somewhere in there, they may be just like, there may be a moment, a gap, like just almost like where you just fall into what God, I don't want what people call spaciousness. I'm not, it's like I think that we humans are beyond. We have to do it to ourselves.
Right.
Where there's, the whole sort of no teacher, no guru. I think that we have the internet. There's nothing you can't find out. The only problem is to find out if it's true. Right. But then if I want to learn how to become a farrier and to change horses' hooves, I can get a pretty long way there on the internet. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you think about when I grew up, if I'd seen how good musicians were, I wouldn't have bothered. But I'm sitting in a little rural town in West Dorset in England, I love Queen, and I love David Bowie, and I love watching Top of the Pops every Thursday night.
Yes.
But now I can go on and watch 5 things that a drummer does that are unplayable, that are so good, and the 12-year-old me would have thought, fuck it, I'm not even going to bother. Right. So, and the thing is, and that's the other thing about music, it's just not to do with how, when you're good enough to learn how to play what people really want to play, really want to hear, that's when you're really good. It's like, it's very hard to learn how to play a musical instrument, because it's very hard to play an instrument and get out of your own way, when it's kind of like doof bash, doof doof bash, hit cymbal, drum fill, building up, coming down, and it's like, and you're like, am I doing well? Am I avoiding the sack? You know what I mean? So you're very unlikely to, unless you get into one of those sort of improvisational things, which I think is very interesting, where people try and just go on and let their fingers just go wherever they are. And it's, if they're really genuinely doing it, it's very, very hard to do. I have to plan my kind of unexpected moments, but I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking to you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
I think some of it's funny. I think some of it is deeply meaningful in a way that I can't even really. Why does it? Where you hear an orchestra playing a note that then gradually I talk quickly, crossfades. You understand about a crossfade?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
There are some of the longest crossfades in the history of any DAW in this. Like, sometimes I do a crossfade for a minute and a half, because very interesting things happen in crossfades is that things that you can't plan for. If you're gradually going from one bit of music, and of course you can have it so that it just scoops up at the end, but it's going down. Right. And I think that another thing on headphones with Quantum Mind Carnival is some of those crossfades do things that I could never have done.
Sure. Because
they're just, whoa, that's so extraordinary that happened at that time. And anyway, so I'm a huge fan of the crossfade, and how it's all supposed to feel like it's just falling out of itself.
That's perfect.
In an effortless and yet somehow meaningful way.
Consciousness is developing. A transformation of the mind. The revolution of consciousness.
Quantum Mind Carnival by James Hood is available right now. For more information, check out his website, jameshood.com.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website at rockandrollgradschool.com, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.